not.
All right, pub set up or no?
Yeah, so this is my Ephesians song.
Okay, awesome.
So,
The song for the writing process.
huh? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I always get those two confused. They're both yellow.
And they have PHs.
Yeah. I'm really thankful for this group because of this. Like, as long as I've been in this group, my relationship has, like, the group has poured into me in ways that I can't, from the very beginning to now, whether it's like, you shouldn't keep going on down this path, or you should play that course again, or, all that kind of stuff. And I would have never written this song without John being like, you better do it. And so I was...
Or no pudding.
I had been struggling. I'd been struggling with wrestling with my muses and saying, you don't own me, you don't tell me what to write. And, these outside forces as a songwriter that we experience that are kind of hard to nail down and say, like, exactly where they come from. And so that's kind of where I was. And I was like, you are not going to define me as an artist. I am the artist. But I didn't believe that up until this past summer. And so when John's like, write this song, and I'm like, I guess I will. And so I just started, and it's like, I was telling Kelly this, I built the stable so the cow could come in. And when the cow showed up, like, I was just like, this would have never happened. I wasn't planning, yeah.
You milked
you gotta get milk. Well, and then C.S. Lewis's science trilogy, they talk about the sun's blood and the star's milk, and I was able to get that milk, out of this. So I'm probably gonna mess up, but the song is called Peace.
Just us.
Ancient God of galaxy, oh peace. And the spies of the enemy are my desires, hidden in a harlot's house. And you can bet that I've let my cord down. Ancient God of galaxy, oh peace. And the spies of the enemy are my desires, hidden in a harlot's house. And you can bet that I've let my cord down more than once, more than twice. And the way I do not cool, critically novel, while the master he sleeps, and I play for keeps at the stern of the vessel, the mortar, the pestle, and my wandering eye on the starboard side, and the jewels of my breastplate on the floor, and I'm sprawled like some French girl. But I'm trading my vices, the smoke and the spices, and I'm headed for the new world. So tear down the mountain and tear down the lighthouse while this ship is still coming to shore. 'Cause there's rocks in the water, my hull torn asunder, but I'm mooring the morning, 'cause still there's the morning. And the spies of the enemy are my desires, hidden in a harlot's house. And you can bet that I've let my cord down more than once, more than twice. And the way I deny and quote critically novel while the master he sleeps, and I play for keeps at the stern of the vessel, the mortar, the pestle, and my wandering eye on the starboard side.
so that last line is like, what's the line of you?
What is that? Yeah, it's hard
Let me see.
to digest. Like it's hard to. It's like sometimes like ending with a t and starting with a t. Like whether you separate it or you connect it, and there's not a right or wrong. Being able to read it, and I think it just goes to anyone who's going to listen to your stuff is a fan of your stuff. And if you're turning on new people and they don't hear it, they're going to be people who are going to be word centric and go in to read and want to see your lyrics, and then you have them. But I mean, when you wrote that, what did you think? That he just called it the lyric of the
last line.
For
century.
year, I said.
Year. All right. I'm going to say, let's say decade. Because yeah, you said year. I said.
Yeah.
What do you mean by you let the chord down? That's been bothering me since the first time you said it. Just because I didn't understand.
So whenever I was in Austin this past summer, right after my grandma had died, I went to a musicians conference there for CD Baby, and that I was just so tempted to go be like, Freaky Austin and do like whatever you can do in Austin, because I have, and that's what it's kind of, it's that Rahab idea, but in reverse. Rahab threw the chord down so that they know who not to kill.
I got it now.
But it's the enemy spies that I'm letting the chord down for. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like whenever you set yourself up when you're scheming and when you allow the enemy to come in. Not that, I was out in the field and
I
he
need
got
to
me.
sing the whole song again now that I
Yeah.
So amazing. Terrell, I think you inspire like a vulnerability in us, in our delivery, because you're so vulnerable to us when you deliver your songs. It's every time, hold back. I appreciate that, because you can sing the same song and just execute it technically well, or you can sing a song like that.
But on the technical part, there was some part that, like, I'm not a musician, I just sing. Like the part of the jewels, like my ear didn't took that easy. I could be a literature person.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very dissonant.
Felt like the wrong chord. I don't.
Yeah, like
Yeah, it's
like piano person.
Speak to that.
Give
Speak to
him an
that.
idea.
To that chordal dissonance, and the song, and the writer, and the listener. I mean,
there's a tension that, and you do this a lot in your writing. You said to me a couple of months ago that you'd heard enough of my songs now to really enjoy, because you kind of heard the way it got put together, and the same is true back at you. You have a great way of creating tension that then has meaning when it resolves. And that was a line I would agree with Talita. I thought of all the lines in the song, that was the one that seemed the most unsure of itself in terms of what because there's a difference between creating tension and then making it sound like you accidentally flubbed the chord or something like that, right? And I think you can go even further with that line. I think you can do something even further with that line so that we know, okay, I'm going here and then I'm going to get you back.
how were you with the music?
No, like I loved it, and I understand.
With that dissonant.
I understand what you were trying to
Injection.
do, because of like you build up here and you wanted to break it to go to that second part. It's just I don't know, like what would it be that connect them better. I just think it needs something that connects them better. I like that you like I like that
Dynamics of it.
because it builds up, it gives it that passion, that emotion. It wasn't so easy on my ears, but and then I say years, like I don't understand that about.
But Josiah, what the
I
accidentals?
think you just left us a little uncertain
if you were off key or if you were bending the note.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of left us with that doubt.
And that's
Are
what I
you
mean. That's what I mean. If
bending
you
the
just
note,
go a
or
little
are you
further
just a
in
little
the
bit off
dissonance,
key?
there wouldn't be any doubt at all.
Yeah.
We'd know you were.
I
We'd
don't
know
think-
what you were
I didn't
doing.
get that. I got that was a complete intentional.
You've also
It sounded
heard
more-
this-
No,
it sounded more
I mean,
intentional
I
the
think
second
he
time.
executed
It was just because.
in A
It was
plus.
just because I think you can be more sure of the dissonance, right? I don't think you have to be subtle. I think you can go for the dissonance and really let it ring and let us go,
And the listeners
and then
expecting
release
it.
us. You know.
You know what I
Oh.
mean?
Well, if you were gonna do that there, I wouldn't know why. That's all I'm saying.
If you were,
wouldn't know why.
I wouldn't know why there,
Why the distance is on that line.
why there.
And that's where I
think
was
you
curious
need to
when you first did
apologize
it,
to
too.
some French girls.
I'm sorry.
I think you're gonna have to apologize to some French girls.
I'm a French girl.
Why French girls are scrolling.
You ever seen Titanic?
I
No, I haven't.
it was
so I'm
very
not-
deep.
Oh, really?
I have to say, I
Okay.
love your
Please don't
internal
make fun.
rhymes.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a huge fan of internal rhyme, and every time a writer does it, you go, "Wow, that's a mature songwriter who can do that."
That's true.
And you know, stern of the vessel, the mortar and pestle. You know, trading my vices, the smoke and the spices. I just love all those
That is
internal
great.
rhymes, and they landed. Every one of those landed on me, and I wanted more. I thought there were some lines in here that you could go back and see if you can even ooch that a little more for us.
Can I just, did you just have your?
That's a technical term.
No, it just kind of the idea of the. I wouldn't necessarily say at the time. I wouldn't have called it a lyrical line, but "Despise the enemy are my desires hidden in a harlot's house" came from Austin.
And I think it sounds like it came from deep in your soul that maybe you didn't even
I
realize.
I would say that it was something. It was like kind of a. I'm always iffy when I say, like, yes, the Lord said that to me,
Yeah.
but the Lord said that to me.
but the most precious part of this whole thing is the jewels of your breastplate, and it almost as if you're saying they may have fallen out.
That's
And
I mean,
when you
to
say
be-
jewels, it's almost like you're cracking, going, "Oh
yeah.
my God, the
Well-
jewel!" And so I didn't even hear. I just heard the pain and the sorrow and all the depth of what the heck is going on,
Yeah.
because it's trying to come out, and you're trying to make like sense of everything. You know?
Let me say this. The most thrilling musical moment in this song for me was when you went more than once, and then it came back more than twice, and the whole thing kind of went, right? And I would find more places to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially in some of these dense ideas. More than once, more than twice. Let it grow a couple of other times. And I mean, I just think I just loved that. I was like, here we go. We're going over Niagara in a barrel, and we're with him. You know.
That was very intense.
And there's that juxtaposition that it's kind of conversational with peace oh peace.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's this. It's.
That's
For me, it's
the release of the
conversation.
tension from what you're
You
going
know,
through.
Like you write, there's lateral, vertical worship, you know, in song. Now we got a whole band named after it. But, you know, are you talking to another Christian? Is it God talking down to a Christian? Or is it you talking up to God? I mean, in songwriting, those are the only three models that we're writing. And shoot, I don't know who it is. It's Danny Goki, I think, just has a song where he's now assuming God and talking down, which is a very, it's just come out, interesting songwriting exercise. But this is what's so, and I don't know if I got this right, but it's conversational. Like Kelly, that's why I heard that with that, like, that spiritual. It's a, you know, prayer is a two-way street. You pray and then you listen. God's going to talk back to you, and we're not really good at listening in the United States. So we pray and then we go, okay, peace out, and then we don't expect, and God's going, you know. So for me, what you're saying is there's this, maybe even like the main character is that it's this conversational contemplation to this really raw, like Genesis creation, God creates at a distance, and there's a second creation story where God creates out of there are two Judaic models of creation. The breastplates, I mean, you just, it's like light bulb. I see what you're doing there. I'm not sure how that happened, how the breastplate like got on the floor and some of the stones fell off, but I relate to that, whatever that is. And Kelly's saying the vulnerability of going there. But ultimately, the main character is to me, is this conversation, which is a beautiful song because it's a universal that we all hope to have to Kelly's song, that we are in prayer, maybe even unceasingly, conversing with God and hopefully listening. And then, so peace, oh peace. I mean, to me, I'm not saying that you're calling God peace, but the way I kind of listen to that ancient God of the galaxy.
I'm so sorry.
I'm hearing this as not a cry out, but it's a prayer, and the prayers, generally speaking, don't go to ourselves, although we're good at that too.
You know, I almost felt like that refrain, and I would call it a refrain, not a chorus. It's like you've got a child who's having a fit, and God just reaches over and just puts his hand, and you go still. That's what it did to me. Especially because you built that tension. I just loved the tension in it. I loved the struggle. And then when you just go, shh, you're okay. I just loved that.
Peace, oh peace.
I didn't felt that because in my mind I felt the person dies, right? There's the spices, there's the, like, somebody was prepared to be buried, and then mourning. So like in my mind, it's like, it's the end.
Metaphorically.
No, I'm not saying that's bad.
experience in
You're
Austin.
telling like a very
There's a
Shakespearean thing. They died at the end.
Or died to self.
Yeah, like it felt like a deathening, like
Yeah, that's
You have this gift, and I love it in you, and I would love to try and emulate this. You have a gift like an abstract painter. You know, you walk in Rothko Chapel, or you walk in someplace where, you go to the Tate Modern in London, and you walk in and you look at this painting that is a complete and total abstract. And the person next to you goes, wow, that's a beautiful landscape forest. And you go, really? Because I see a murder scene, and right? And you have the ability to evoke an emotional reaction from an image that doesn't necessarily have to be literal. And that's why Talita can look into it and say, oh, the person died, and I get that, and I can look at it and go, oh, I see the struggle, and and I love that about what you do, is that there's space in your song for the listener to create. That listening becomes
which actually kind of completes the song.
Absolutely. Listening becomes a creative activity. And
if I come up to you and I say, that song was about apples and oranges, right? And you go, and Steve, the guy next to you goes, it was about kumquats and bananas. And you say right to both of us.
You say yes.
You say yes, because if you don't, and it's about trees and lily pads, when you say that, we both go, really? So allowing us to have our
it's like I used to
experience in your
when I direct actors in the theater, I'll often have actors come and go, am I supposed to be angry or am I supposed to be in love with her? And I would say yes. Yes. Play both those things. That's what's fascinating. That's what's interesting. Very few people in life know themselves or other people well enough to feel one way about them.
And in some ways, there's nothing more boring than to be completely literal.
Right.
And unwilling to.
Right. And I just, you're able to do that in a very unique way that I just adore. I just adore it.
Who wants to pray out?
I will. Heavenly Father, we